Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotarashata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhaishanaarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotarashata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveta Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 4, entitled Sati Quits Her Body, texts 31 and 32. Vadatti evam jane satya. Vadatti evam jane satya. Drishtva sutyagamadbhutam. Drishtva sutyagamadbhutam. Daksham tat parshadahantum. Daksham tat parshadahantum. Uddatishtan udayudaha. Uddatishtan udayudaha. Vadatyevam jane satya. Drishtva sutyagamadbhutam. Daksham tat parshadahantum. Uddatishtan udayudaha. Vadatyevam jane satya. Drishtva sutyagamadbhutam. Daksham tat parshadahantum. Uddatishtan udayudaha. Udatishtanudayutaha vadati. We're talking. Evam, thus, Jane, while the people, Satyaha, of Sati, Drishtva, after seeing, Asutyagam, the death, Adbhutam, wonderful, Daksham, Daksha, Tat Parshadaha, the attendants of Lord Shiva, Hantum, to kill, Uddatishtan, stood up, Uddayudaha, with uplifted weapons. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. While people were talking amongst themselves about the wonderful voluntary death of Sati, the attendants who had come with her readied themselves to kill Daksha with their weapons. Purport. The attendants who came with Sati were meant to protect her from calamities, but since they were unable to protect their master's wife, they decided to die for her. And before dying, they wanted to kill Daksha. It is the duty of attendants to give protection to their master, and in case of failure, it is their duty to die. Text 32. Tesham apatatam vegam nishamya bhagavan briguhu yajna ganena yajusha dakshinagno juha vaha. Translation. They came forward forcibly, but Brigumuni saw the danger and, offering oblations into the southern side of the sacrificial fire, immediately uttered mantric hymns from the Yajurveda, by which the destroyers of yajnic performances could be killed immediately. Purport. Here is one example of powerful hymns in the Vedas which, when chanted, could perform wonderful acts. In the present age of Kali, it is not possible to find expert mantra chanters. Therefore, all the sacrifices recommended in the Vedas are forbidden in this age. The only sacrifice recommended in this age is the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, because in this age it is not possible to accumulate the needed funds for performing sacrifices, not to speak of finding expert brahmanas who can chant the mantras perfectly. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Yam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamlam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Rugunathan Vitam Tam Tajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. If you see the relationship between Daksha and Lord Shiva, it's a very complicated relationship. It's a relationship that you don't see in the mature world. They're both sons of Brahma, so they're both brothers. At the same time, Lord Shiva is the son-in-law of Daksha. So on one hand, you can't really blame Daksha for how he reacted. Should I act as if he's my brother? Should I act as if he's my son-in-law? Should I act as if, as Srila Prabhupada said previously, should I act as if he's the personality in charge of the mode of goodness, in charge of the mode of ignorance in this mature world, for which he deserves the highest respect from me? So Daksha was confused. So right now we're discussing about the second sacrifice that Daksha is performing. Both of his sacrifices were a failure. In the first sacrifice, he disrespected Lord Shiva by calling him ill names, which we don't want to say again. But and in that sacrifice, Lord Shiva, he kept quiet. Even though Lord Shiva's followers, they accused Bhrigumani and Daksha's followers back, Lord Shiva, he kept quiet and he left the arena. But as we'll see in this yagya, Lord Shiva didn't keep quiet. In fact, he summons his devotee called Virabhadra, a great giant demon who is a devotee of Lord Shiva. And this Virabhadra, he destroys the entire yagya of Daksha. So why didn't Lord Shiva keep quiet in the second yagya? Because in the first yagya, it was he who was the object of ridicule. So similarly, we should understand that as devotees, if someone accuses us or chastises us or puts us down, we should not take it personally. Srila Prabhupada explains that if we go through unfavorable situations, circumstances, we should understand that we actually deserve much worse, and Krishna is diminishing that, what we deserve because of our karma. And in fact, one place Srila Prabhupada says that we should actually befriend such a person because that person is helping us to get purified. But in the second yagya, who was offended? His wife. Now, one of the other names of Sati, Durga, Parvati is Vaishnavi. So she's a Vaishnavi. In fact, as we learn from Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Shiva is the greatest Vaishnava. Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. So Sati being his wife, and the wife in a Vedic culture is considered also to be a disciple of the husband, because the husband is the guru. So she was a disciple of Lord Shiva, who is the greatest Vaishnava. So she is also a Vaishnavi. So in fact, Daksha performed Vaishnava Parad, as it's explained, that Daksha, being the father and in one sense still the protector of his daughter, he didn't stop her from committing suicide. So Jiva Goswami explains that there's different types of Vaishnava Parad. To get angry at a Vaishnav, to blaspheme a Vaishnava, to be envious of a Vaishnava, to not glorify a Vaishnava, to not be happy upon seeing another devotee. So all of these things, all of these Vaishnava parads, Daksha, he broke. You can see he was envious of Lord Shiva because, like Srila Prabhupada mentioned previously, that externally he was envious because, he's my son-in-law, he didn't get up when I entered the arena. But then actually Srila Prabhupada, he gives us deeper insight. He says that Daksha was actually envious of Lord Shiva because he was on a higher platform, a higher transcendental platform. Materially speaking and spiritually speaking as well, Daksha was on a higher platform because he is the controlling deity of the mode of ignorance. Lord Shiva is the father of this material world. And Daksha was envious of the fact that actually he had so much respect and that actually he was an incarnation of Krishna, controlling the mode of ignorance. He got angry at Lord Shiva. He called him names. He was envious of Lord Shiva. He blasphemed Lord Shiva. He did not glorify Lord Shiva, obviously, and he was not happy upon seeing Lord Shiva. So, as devotees, like, one thing we should understand is that Daksha he's a demigod, he's a Prajapati. And to attain such a position, you can't attain such a position if you're not a devotee of Vishnu. I understand that 2 verses ago it mentioned that Daksha, who was so hard-hearted that he's unworthy to be a Brahmana, will gain extensive ill fame because of his offenses to his daughter, because of not having prevented her death and because of his great envy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yes, that is now. But previously, Daksha is a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. But the lesson that we can learn from this is that even as devotees, if we are, over a period of time, if we are put in a position of respect or leadership, as Daksha is, it can get to us. It can get to us. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur gives the story of balam rice and cow ghee. Perhaps you've heard, very famous story, about how a landlord, he had a servant. And he was working that servant very hard, and the servant was not complaining. But after some time, the servant started to complain, and he threatened his master, the landlord, that I'm going to leave you. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to go to a better master. So this landlord, he consulted one of his friends, his close friends, and he said, this is what's happening between me and my servant. How can I retain him? So the landlord's friend was very intelligent. He said, all you have to do is every single day moving forward, cook very nice hot rice. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur called it balam rice. I'm not sure what balam rice is exactly. We can say like very hot, aromatic basmati rice. And mix in it cow ghee, fresh cow ghee. Right? And you feed this to your servant every single day. So that's what he started doing. Every single day he started feeding his servant rice and cow ghee. And over a period of time, even though the servant was being worked so hard, he started to develop a taste for this cow ghee and rice. And then after a period of time, the servant, he was always flickering. He's like, yeah, I like the cow ghee and the rice, but he's working me too hard. So then once it just got too much for him, and he said, I'm out of here. I don't want to serve you. So he ran away to some other master. And he spent a few weeks there. But then the taste of the cow ghee and the balam rice was so delicious that he couldn't resist it. And he came back. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains, it's a very serious purport, that sometimes just to retain the enthusiasm of the disciple, the spiritual master has to award the disciple with high position, with positions of great responsibility, which is good, but if done artificially to retain the enthusiasm of the disciple, it's not so good. Sometimes the disciple is awarded some title. Sometimes the guru has to put some neophyte or younger devotees under that disciple so that the disciple feels that I'm so great. Now other people are listening to me. So in order to perform devotional service, which can be austere, sometimes the spiritual master has to do that. So we as devotees should be very wary that we don't fall into the trap that Daksha has fallen. Daksha has committed Vaishnava Aparad. And there's a story about the glories of Sati, actually. That one day, how great a Vaishnavi she is, actually. That one day, Narada Muni, he went to Vaikuntha. And with great difficulty, he managed to get the Mahaprasad of Lord Narayan. And he ate the Mahaprasad. I told this story recently. He ate the Mahaprasad and he started dancing in ecstasy. Then he came back down. He came to Kailash. And there, Lord Shiva was there. And Lord Shiva asked him, why are you so ecstatic? He said, I just tasted the remnants of Narayan. I just tasted the Mahaprasad of Narayan. And that's why I'm dancing in ecstasy. And then Lord Shiva got angry. He said, how dare you? We are brothers. You tasted the Mahaprasad of Lord Narayan and you didn't save me anything. I remember Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was telling a story where Prabhupada, he gave him, and I believe it was Brahmananda, Brahmananda Prabhu. Prabhupada gave him, both of them, some rasgulla or gulab jamun, which was Prabhupada's Mahaprasad. And he put it on their plates separate. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he ate his. And then Brahmananda Prabhu, he hadn't eaten it yet. So when Brahmananda Prabhu was looking the other way, Tamal Krishna Maharaj grabbed it from his plate and ate it. And Brahmananda Prabhu got really angry at Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So this is how we should be. We should be very greedy for Mahaprasad. So Lord Shiva, he got angry. How come you didn't save me any Mahaprasad of Lord Narayan? But then, being very observant, he saw that within the fingernails, which is considered to be a very unclean place. Maybe not for Narad Muni, but generally speaking. But he saw a morsel of Mahaprasad stuck between the fingernails of Narad Muni. And what did Lord Shiva do? He dived into that space, took it out, and he ate it. And then Lord Shiva became ecstatic. And he started dancing. And you know what happens when Lord Shiva starts dancing? The whole earth shakes. The whole universe. Tandava Nritya. So Lord Shiva started to dance in ecstasy. Not because it was time for the universal annihilation, but because he was in such ecstasy. And Bhumandala, it started to shake and vibrate intensely, so much so that Bhumi Devi, Mother Earth, she became perturbed. So she goes to Durga Devi. She goes to Durga Devi, goddess Katyayani, who is Lord Shiva's wife, and she complains to her that, please tell your husband, stop dancing. It's causing me great disturbance. It's causing all the living entities who are living on my surface great disturbance. So then Katyayani, she gets a bit angry, and she goes up to Lord Shiva, and she tells him, stop dancing. It's causing great distress to all the living entities. And Lord Shiva, he becomes a bit angry at Goddess Durga. Why did you disturb my trance? I was in such great ecstasy. Why did you disturb it? And then she apologizes and she says, the reason why I did it is because Bhumi Devi was calling for help. And then she says, why are you in such great ecstasy, my Lord? Why are you dancing so much? Because I've tasted the Mahaprasad of Lord Narayan. Oh, you didn't save me any? You didn't save me any? And Lord Shiva says, no, because you are not a Vaishnavi. You don't understand. Talks between husband and wife. And there was a great quarrel between Lord Shiva and Goddess Katyayani. So much so that Katyayani, she got very angry, very displeased that she didn't get any. And she said that if only I am able to get the Mahaprasad of Lord Vishnu, of Lord Narayan, I promise to honor it with great respect. And not only me, like Narada Muni, he just took it for himself. Lord Shiva just took it for himself. Not only I will take it, but I will distribute it to all the living entities on earth, even the dogs and the jackals. She made this vow. And seeing her compassion and seeing her determination, Lord Narayan came to Kailash. And he gave Katyayani, Sati, the benediction that the first person to receive Mahaprasad of Lord Narayan will be Goddess Durga. So that's why if you go to Jagannath Puri, you see they have Durga Mandap, right? Bimala. So there, Jagannath's Mahaprasad, first it goes there, right? And it's offered to Bimala Devi and then distributed to us. So the compassion of Durga Devi, of Sati, is so much that it prompted Lord Narayan to come. So she's a great Vaishnavi. And this story is actually one of the reasons why Krishna decided to come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a separate incident, but Krishna was in his palace in Dwarka and Narada Muni came there. And Narada Muni was telling Krishna that, Kali Yuga is coming. Things are going to degrade so much. At the same time, Rukmini, his chief queen, she was crying, saying that, Krishna, you have come here, but at any moment you'll disappear. You'll go to somewhere else, to some other queen's palace. So she was feeling that prema vaichitya, she was feeling that separation from Krishna in his presence. And at the same time, Krishna also remembered what this incident with Katyayani, that she will distribute Mahaprasad to all the living entities. Therefore, I should provide my prasad. I should provide my prasad to all the living entities. And that's why, this is explained in Shastra, this is one of the reasons why Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or Krishna, decided to advent himself as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to distribute love of Godhead freely to all the living entities, to distribute compassion, mercy, is called Audarya, to show compassion to the living entities very freely. And we see here not just the mercy of Lord, just the mercy of Durga Devi, but even Lord Shiva. Now you know that Narada Muni, we read it in Krishna book, that when Manigriva and Nalukuvera in the heavenly planets, in the the celestial gardens, they were frolicking in the waters, right, with apsaras, and they were naked. And Narada Muni comes, and seeing that they were intoxicated, he curses them. But is that curse actually a curse, or is it a benediction for them? Because they took their birth in the garden of Nanda Maharaj, right? And then Krishna himself came, and as a baby with the wooden mortar, he pulled these trees and they were liberated. Now, something interesting to note is a very similar situation is happening here. Daksha has blasphemed Lord Shiva. Daksha is responsible for killing Lord Shiva's wife. And yet, Lord Shiva is acting most mercifully to Daksha. How is that? Now you may think that he's going to summon this great demon called Veerbhadra, and Veerbhadra is going to tear off Daksha's head. Then Daksha will offer his prayers. And then Lord Shiva will give him the head of a goat. Is this showing mercy? It's pretty violent. But what happens is that after some time, Daksha dies, and then later on in his next birth, he takes birth as the son of, does anyone know? Prachetas. And Prachetas are disciples of who? Lord Shiva. So Daksha in his next birth takes birth as the son of Prachetas, who are the direct disciples of Lord Shiva. We know Prachinabari, King Prachinabari. He was really into Karma Kanda. He had sent his sons, the 10 Prachetas, away to do austerities, to become good householders. So they were brahmacharis at the time. They were doing great tapasya. And then Lord Shiva comes and he teaches them the Rudra Gita. So daily they chant the Rudra Gita, they meditate on these instructions of Lord Shiva, and they go underwater and they do tapasya. And then finally, they come back out, and Lord Vishnu comes and he says, Varam Vinidro Badrambo Yuyam Me Nripanandana. He says, I am very pleased by your devotional service, and especially I am very pleased, Sauhardena. I am very pleased by the fact that you are rendering devotional service together in camaraderie. You're rendering devotional service in harmony with each other. There's no dissensions, there's no quarrels between you. And this very much pleased Lord Vishnu. And he gave them benedictions, actually. So I just want to read that section from Bhagavatam. This is actually the 4th canto, chapter 30, text 48. I'll read the translation. Following the order of Lord Brahma, all the Prachetas accepted the girl as their wife. So their wife was called Maricha. From the womb of this girl, the son of Lord Brahma, named Daksha, took birth. Daksha had to take birth from the womb of Marisha due to his disobeying and disrespecting Lord Mahadev, Lord Shiva. Consequently, he had to give up his body twice. Srila Prabhupada writes that in this connection, the word Mahad Avagyanat is significant. King Daksha was the son of Lord Brahma. Therefore, in a previous birth, he was a Brahmana. But because of his behaving like a non-Brahmana, a Brahmana, by insulting or disrespecting Lord Mahadev, he had to take birth within the semen of a Kshatriya. That is to say, he became the son of the Prachetas. Not only that, but because of his disrespecting Lord Shiva, he had to undergo the tribulation of taking birth from within the womb of a woman. In the Daksha Yagya arena, he was once killed by Lord Shiva's servant Veerbhadra. Because that was not sufficient, he again took birth from the womb of Marisha. Now this is interesting. Prabhupada writes, at the end of the Daksha Yagya and the disastrous incidents there, Daksha offered his prayers to Lord Shiva. Although he had to give up his body and take birth from the womb of a woman impregnated by the semen of a Kshatriya, he received all opulence by the grace of Lord Shiva. So it seems like a curse, but actually in his next lifetime, Lord Daksha, he received all opulence by the grace of Lord Shiva. So we can see that Vaishnavas are very merciful. Externally, it seems that they may act contrary. Vaishnava is supposed to be tolerant, friend of everyone. Here we see Lord Shiva, even though he was offended, still he's the friend of Daksha. But at first glance, it's not very easily evident. Therefore, the Acharyas say that one should not judge a Vaishnava by their external actions. It's very difficult to understand the position of a pure devotee. Now, one thing that could have helped Daksha is actually understanding the position of Lord Shiva. He didn't understand it. Genuinely, he didn't understand it. He was still acting on the bodily platform. He didn't recognize at that time the transcendental nature of Lord Shiva, being a Param Vaishnav. I was just talking to one devotee last night, and he was telling me that generally when people think of Lord Shiva, they consider him to be shrouded in mysticism. He's a very difficult person to understand, because not much knowledge about him is easily available. Whereas there's so much knowledge available about Krishna. Everyone knows that Krishna took birth from the womb of Devaki. Everyone knows about his birth. Everyone knows about his childhood pastimes, his Rasa Leela, the most intimate pastimes. The knowledge is freely available to everyone. And therefore, because this knowledge of Krishna is freely available, Krishna is no longer a mystery. Everyone thinks that they know everything about Krishna. But because knowledge of Lord Shiva is not so easily available, people generally have more of a respect for Lord Shiva. Right? They don't easily know how Lord Shiva took birth from the eyebrows, between the eyebrows of Lord Brahma. People think that Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because the knowledge is not easily available. Giriraj Maharaj, he explains that when he was preaching in Madras, in South India at that time, all the people around that place, they were telling him, because he was preaching to all the wealthy people, to try and get the donations, solicit donations, and to solicitate life members for ISKCON at that period of time. So then all the people around where he was staying, they were saying, you have to go and meet this person called Mr. Ramakrishna. You have to meet him, Mr. Ramakrishna. By his name, it seems like he's a Vaishnava, right? Ramakrishna. So Giriraj, I believe he was not a sannyasi at that time, but Giriraj Maharaj, he went and he visited Mr. Ramakrishna. And there he started to talk to him, and that talk turned to preaching a little bit. And he started to preach to him and tell him that, from the Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then he got resistance from Mr. Ramakrishna. He wasn't actually a Vaishnava. He was actually a devout follower of Lord Shiva. Now, if one is actually a devout follower of Lord Shiva, then they will understand that, Shiva is himself a Vaishnava. But Mr. Ramakrishna started debating with Giriraj Maharaj, saying, no, Lord Krishna is not the Supreme Personality of God. Lord Shiva is the Supreme Personality of God. And then he started raising his voice. And then Giriraj Maharaj started raising his voice to try to defend Krishna. And then he started raising his voice, and Giriraj Maharaj started raising his voice, and it got really heated. And at one point, Giriraj Maharaj just said, okay, let's stop this. And then he left the residence. And Maharaj explains that it was very unpalatable like that. And then, a few weeks passed, and Giriraj Maharaj, he was still preaching in that local area. And the people still kept telling him, you have to go and see this person. He's very genuine. He can give a lot of donations. He can bring a lot of members to join ISKCON. And Maharaj was thinking, I just went and talked to him, but okay, maybe it's been some time. Maybe the first time I was a bit unlucky. And anyway, Giriraj Maharaj explains that maybe he is thinking, Mr. Ramakrishna is thinking that other people are coming up to him and telling him, you got to talk to these ISKCON people. They're doing great work in Madras. So maybe we should try a second time. So then, mustering up courage, Giriraj Maharaj went back to Mr. Ramakrishna, and the same thing happened. The cordial discussion turned into a great debate, and both of them got angry. One defending Lord Krishna, one defending Lord Shiva. And at the time, and again, Giriraj Maharaj, of course, he was much junior in age. He said, "Look, let's leave it here. Let's stop here. I'm just a disciple of a great guru. I may not be able to tell you and convince you, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is coming to Chennai, to Madras in a few weeks, and maybe you can talk to him." So then that's what happened. Srila Prabhupada came and he met Mr. Ramakrishna. And then Mr. Ramakrishna told Srila Prabhupada, "Your disciple has been telling me that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How is this?" And Srila Prabhupada, being an expert Vaishnava, an expert preacher, he didn't answer the question directly. He answered the question indirectly. Srila Prabhupada said that, actually there's two modes of worship. One is bhakti, and the other one is puja. And those who worship Lord Shiva, those who approach Lord Shiva, they approach in the mode of puja. Whereas those who worship Lord Krishna, they approach in the mood of bhakti. Now, what is the difference between bhakti and puja? Bhakti means that one who approaches a personality in bhakti is completely unreserved and not expecting anything. They're serving that personality out of love. Whereas one who approaches through the mode of puja means that, Prabhupada explains, that they worship that person to get something. Mr. Ramakrishna was disgusted. And he was angry, but then he asked Srila Prabhupada, can't we approach Lord Shiva in the mood of bhakti as well? And Srila Prabhupada's reply was, yes, it is possible. It is possible to approach Lord Shiva in the mood of bhakti. Just as the Prachetas worship Lord Shiva as their guru, and when we are worshipping our gurus, we are doing so in the mode of bhakti, right? Because they are representatives of Krishna. So on the one hand, you can approach Lord Shiva in the mode of puja. But if you have the vision, if you have the understanding that Lord Shiva is a Vaishnava, then you can approach Lord Shiva in a mood of bhakti. So this was how Srila Prabhupada answered the question. And Mr. Ramakrishna was very appreciative of Srila Prabhupada's answer like that. So one other point that Srila Prabhupada is bringing up here in the purport, he's saying that the attendants who came with Sati were meant to protect her from calamities, but since they were unable to protect their master's wife, they decided to die for her. And before dying, they wanted to kill Daksha. It is the duty of attendants to give protection to their master, and in case of failure, it is their duty to die. So when I was reading that, I thought of two examples from Shastra. We know Shanda and Amarka, right? Who are the disciples of? No, actually they're the disciples of Shukracharya. Hiranyakashipu had enlisted their help to train Prahlad, right? And being the dedicated servants of Shukracharya and Hiranyakashipu, when Prahlad came and spoke to Hiranyakashipu, telling him what he had learned, and he told him, you should go to the forest and you should do kirtanam and smaranam and padasevanam. Shanda and Amarka got very much afraid that Hiranyakashipu is going to kill us. So this is the mood of a servant. That they're afraid, of course they're not the good examples, but still the principle is that we should take gold even if it's in a filthy place, right? So using that principle, you can understand that we should be we should feel very guilty. We should feel very distressed if we are not able to fulfill the instructions of the spiritual master. Like Srila Prabhupada was given the instruction by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to go and preach in the West. Srila Prabhupada did not fulfill that instruction for many decades until he was in his 60s when he started compiling Srimad Bhagavatam, writing back to Godhead and publishing it. And then he took sannyas, went to Vrindavan, and then he started to plan, okay, let me go. Ghanshyam Prabhu was telling me that His Holiness Jayapataka Maharaj says that it may take some time for the disciple to fulfill the instruction of the spiritual master. But the disciple must, at some point in time, fulfill the instruction. You can take your time, but at some point in time, you have to fulfill the instruction of the spiritual master. I'll finish with this one story. Recently, we celebrated the Tirobhav of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So there's one remembrance actually. Oh, actually, this is from memories of Tamal Krishna Maharaj. So in the early days, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was the temple president of the Watsika Avenue Temple in Los Angeles, La Cienega Boulevard. And because he was so close to Srila Prabhupada, he used to receive correspondence from Srila Prabhupada very, very regularly. And whatever he got from Srila Prabhupada, he used to share with all the devotees there. So one day, Tamal Krishna Maharaj received a very encouraging, very uplifting, and yet a very stern letter from Srila Prabhupada. And then he called all the devotees in the temple and he said, Prabhus, Srila Prabhupada has written me something and I want to share with you to encourage you. And he said, Srila Prabhupada has said that he wants us to go back to Godhead in one lifetime. Srila Prabhupada has said in this letter that he wants us to finish our business in this lifetime. He doesn't want us to come back again. But he wrote, that Srila Prabhupada wrote at the end of the letter, now if you need more time to achieve this goal of going back to Godhead in one lifetime, Krishna is willing to extend your lifespan. So Prabhupada wants us to go back to God in one lifetime. Now we may be doing nonsense right now. And we may be thinking, in the future when I'm old or when I'm more qualified. Sometimes devotees give that excuse when you tell them to do service. I'm not qualified. So this is actually not humility. Humility means to unreservedly act when your guru or when sadhus tell you to do something. You take their blessings and you act, even though you're unqualified. You act. Srila Prabhupada created our qualification. No one was qualified. Prabhupada created our qualification. So that is faith. So we may be doing nonsense and we may be thinking that I'll do it in the later. But Srila Prabhupada said if one is sincere and serious and one prays to Krishna, that Krishna, I've been acting in a nonsense way, but I really want to become your pure devotee. Prabhupada says that Krishna is willing to extend your lifespan beyond what your karma dictates for you to attain this goal in this lifetime. So finish here. Just meditate on that point that Srila Prabhupada wants us to go back to God in one lifetime. So what are we doing about it right now? And if we think that we are not on that path of going back to God in one lifetime, then by Srila Prabhupada's blessings, we can approach Radha Gopinath and ask them, please extend my lifespan by a little bit more so I can get a bit more purified and with the hope of going back in this lifetime. So finish here. Any questions or comments? Yes, He could have. That's the short answer. But then you can see that if there's an opportunity to invite Lord Ramachandra to protect you, versus you protecting yourself by chanting mantras, then I guess Vishwamitra Muni took that opportunity to have Lord Ramachandra's association in the forest. But yes, I guess. Anything else? Yes, bro. You took a small section of that story, but generally, if we understand, like you answered the question itself, it's lila. It's for a purpose that they do that. They understand that the position. It's mentioned that Parvati is very close friends with Lakshmi Devi. They are very close friends together. It's actually written in that same pastime about the Mahaprasad, that Lakshmi Devi and Parvati are very close friends. So if she's a very close friend of Lakshmi, of course she knows the position of Lord Vishnu. But then many times devotees will act to set an example to others, not for us. So that is the answer to the question. That I don't know what happens after that, but definitely some moral or some instruction would have come out of that. Do you know what happens after that? Why did she test Lord Ramachandra, and what was the result? Yeah. So that is not so much for her to understand, that is for us to understand. Because we may have doubts, is Lord Ramachandra Supreme Personality of Godhead? Just like Parikshit Maharaj, he knows the position of Lord Krishna. But then in 10th canto, he asks the question again, that it looks like, Lord Krishna is just a boy, and the gopis are just girls. Isn't this like, it's contrary, it's on a moral standard, it seems like it's just lusty affairs, even though he understands Krishna's position. But Srila Prabhupada explains that he asks this question for others who are sitting there. So sometimes pure devotees can act in a way that they're in ignorance. Not that they are, but to teach us. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai.